Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Business Beyond the Beach in partnership with our friends here at Miami Community Newspapers and with coffee generously sponsored by Maman. They've got locations all across Miami-Dade County, but of course our favorite is their Sunset Harbor location in South Beach. My name is Brittnie Bassant. I'm the president and CEO of the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce, and today I am thrilled to have with me Reinaldo Borges from Borges Architects. He is the principal and CEO of the firm. He is also a board member of the chamber. He's also got a lot of other hats that we're going to talk about. But Reinaldo, before we get into all that, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Brittnie. Great being here.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you. So like I said, he's a board member of the chamber, but you are also co-chair of our chamber's Resiliency and Sustainability Council, which is a very important council and an important topic for our city, especially Miami Beach. So what inspired you to get involved at that level in the chamber and to have that leadership of that council?
Well, I think, look, I'm a coastal architect, right? So I think the responsibility of the architect is to bring our gift to the world, and in this case, to the chamber and to Miami Beach, which is such a fantastic place that I've enjoyed since I was very, very young. So I think, being in a coastal city, I think it's important that the architect speaks, to that issue, to that challenge, to that possibility, because I think climate change brings a lot of possibilities and opportunities for us. Both as architects, community leaders, investors, and so on. So it was, I think, a natural thing, for me to get active and bring my voice and my thoughts. I've always said, Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce is also a chamber of ideas, and I think that's where we focus. We focus on solutions, on ideas, and how to move forward in a way that is smart and is solid, for the investment community as well.
That's amazing. And why is this work so personally meaningful to you?
Well, look, I just spend the morning with my granddaughter, right? And the more we look at the future, right, the more we look at the children in our lives, and we realize, what kind of future they inherit. As an architect, I take it on as a responsibility, right, to make sure that every project and every moment that we have to educate and inform our clients, our community, our leaders, we should take that, right? And so. For me, is a serious endeavor, right? Because the way we look at the future, the way we design our projects, whether it's resiliency or sustainability, we try to bring a checklist of items that our clients have to evaluate, right? We don't really dictate anything. We sort of provide a platform to think through projects and think through ideas and reduce risk and increase the value of projects. So that's sort of a passion for us at Borges.
You talked about your granddaughter, and there was a very famous quote that says that we do not inherit the earth from our parents; we are borrowing it from our children. And I think that resonates really strongly with what you just said about how do we look at the future, because we really are, we are borrowing it from the future generation, and we have to leave it in good shape for them. And so Miami, as a city, Miami Beach, Miami-Dade County faces Miami Beach, Miami-Dade County. The whole city faces very unique challenges with climate change and, of course, Miami Beach being a very coastal city. And so you have a really unique perspective. You have this perspective as an architect, but you also have this perspective as the Chamber's Council Chair for Resiliency and Sustainability. So how do you see design and resiliency working together to shape the city's future?
Okay, that's an easy one, it seems. Let me see how I could answer that. So, look, I think at first, Miami Beach has always been, I think, at the forefront of the issue, right? They've taken it on. They've invested. They've got ideas. They have a website that's amazing. It's called Rising Above. You have an amazing amount of talent at the city.
We have a chief resiliency officer in the city of Miami Beach.
Exactly. So the city has leadership within, the staff, which is highly knowledgeable. They're always tapping into the best ideas in the world because it's a global issue. They're learning from the best. They're bringing the best consultants. They're creating criteria and game plans, right, to think through this and invest into resiliency for the city. So I think it's fantastic, to be part of a community that already, the municipality itself is leading the conversation in many ways. We as the chamber try to participate, collaborate, enhance, be critical, make sure that they are thinking through it and that they stay consistent to it, right? Because this is something about, it's like a marathon. What climate does to cities throughout the world, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a long-term issue. So I think the solutions also have to be, looked at in sort of the space of time, and the investment, is significant. So it could get overwhelming, right? So what I try to do in different leadership positions at the chamber throughout, let's say, the last 16 years or so, is sort of bring it to the pillar board, bring it to real estate council, bring it to the board, to the executive board, and make sure that everybody's thinking through it, because it has an impact on everybody's business.
Right. Resiliency is at the intersection of all these different industries, right? So if we can't fix that problem, then we can't address some of these other industries.
It's a question of futurism. I think that there was an art movement early on in the revolution of the machine and of speed and aviation, where there were a group of architects that became known as the futurists. And right now, futurism is really about understanding the present, the future, and how we could modify what we're doing today and adapt to a future that's inevitable, right? And this is not a doom and gloom perspective. It's really about enhancing the community, embracing ideas, that allow us to live better with water. There's a lot of water. I think it's 75%, 80% of the planet is water-based, right? So we can't, create a condition here where the water is just going to stay away. So we need to sort of see how we deal with it. Now, my profession is really not about, my practice is not about water world all the time. I think about many other things, but, we are working on cutting edge projects really that bring ideas of resiliency and sustainability, and really enhances the investment and the life of the project itself.
That's absolutely amazing. So I love hearing that perspective. I love hearing that. And we're going to talk a little bit, because we talked a lot about resiliency. And in a minute, I want to talk about sustainability, because I do think that those two also go hand in hand. But taking a step back, let's talk a little bit about your firm, right? And what you guys have done as architects. And you have worked on just about, your portfolio is extensive and it's diverse. And you've worked on everything from like multifamily residences to sports arenas to health spas. I mean, you've just done it all. So I just learned this phrase, how do you adapt your design vocabulary across such a wide range of projects?
Well, it's exciting. You make me feel like I'm having an exciting life as an architect, which I am.
It is exciting.
And I think every firm principal brings, their experience and their background to the way we manage and we build our portfolio going forward. We've been in business for 26 years. As Borges Architects, I worked with leading firms that really nurtured me and allow me to really gain a broad experience in different types of projects. For our firm, for our community of architects that we're like a family, it's exciting that we are working at different scales. And one day we may be working on a piece of furniture, another day we're doing a 70-story high-rise. And it's nice to have that range, right? From different prototypes, different uses, and different aspects of our cities, right? Throughout, coastal communities. We're working internationally and throughout the country. So, the world has gotten really small for architects, right? Because with technology, we could bridge and create all kinds of alliances. I have an alliance office in Barcelona. I have another one in Santiago, Chile. I've practiced in Mexico, in the Emirates, in Dubai, Abu Dhabi. So really, the world became small with the issue of technology and how we leverage technology.
Can we just pause for a minute and just everything that you just said and the different places that you've worked and the different projects that you worked on? And you mean to tell me that you don't have this incredibly exciting life as an architect? Because that's awesome.
Yes, it is. It is.
That's incredible.
The more mature we get, the more we want to stay around the house with our grandchildren. But, we're very dynamic. Right now, we're moving all over. We just finished a competition in Saudi Arabia that was also water-based. It's a resort, never before seen. Unfortunately, it was a competition and we came in second place. Second place is not like first place, but it still was an amazing opportunity to
amazing experience, I'm sure.
Create something unique, so our portfolio is full of these sort of moments. Architects participate in a lot of competitions, and a lot of times things end up, going to other firms. We are living now in South Florida in a very competitive environment as architects. So we have attracted the best of the architectural world to South Florida. And I feel that after 26 years with my own firm, that there is an incredible amount of talent, which we always embrace, because we want to have the best ideas and the best projects for our beautiful community.
Right. So we talked about competition a little bit, but I want to talk about collaboration, because collaboration is at the heart of like your firm's philosophy. So think back on one of your most memorable projects and talk to me about how that authentic client-architect relationship influenced that project.
Yeah, most recently, besides what I did in the Emirates, which is always full of excitement because, you have collaborating architects there and clients, and you're across the world and delivering things from Miami as our home base. But, we had an established office, and that was exciting. But most recently, with our experience with COVID, we won a big project in Naples, Florida, right? We were able to venture into Naples right at the beginning of the pandemic with a multi-use $400 million project. And we had to do this project with COVID, in the midst, where everybody was working remote in my team. The client was working remote, a lot of Zooming. We were used to it because, during the time in the Arab world and other places, we used Skype at that time. But now with Zoom, we were Zooming twice a week with an entire team of about 30 people. So it was a way to kind of design a project through digital, form, sharing our Revit files through BIM 360, which is a sharing platform. And kind of bringing this team together with Zooms, and it was sort of a live from Miami Zoom show with Reinaldo leading the way, and it was exciting to kind of see how we could put a complex building together. That's a multi-use project with 283 rental luxury units, and then it has 60 luxury condos, and now there's a third phase coming that is over 100 luxury units. So we did this project, and now it's done through COVID. Construction as well, which was kind of interesting to build a building when you still have some COVID restrictions. So that was kind of unique because we were all like uncertain about what would happen at the other end of COVID, and here we are. Everybody's thriving now. The world has discovered South Florida, and it's a very exciting context to keep on growing our firm.
That's absolutely incredible. So let's get back to, because we touched on resiliency, let's get back to the sustainability side, because I know that resiliency and sustainability is very, very, very important to you. And sustainability, when we talk about sustainability, that is a growing priority in, architecture and design. And so how does your firm make sure that you guys are implementing sustainable design into a building without compromising like the overall design or the aesthetics of the building, or the creativity that you might have in designing a building?
If you bring sustainability effectively to any project, right, it's sort of seamless with good aesthetics, right? It sort of doesn't compromise the experience, the quality of the architecture, the materiality of the architecture. And what I've been focusing on with a lot of leadership at the AIA, both in Miami, in the state, and the national level, is to sort of codify things, right? So it's not up to the individual architect to be at the forefront of sort of sustainability design or resiliency design, but there are codes and standards that allow you to incorporate this as a natural way of designing projects. We know in Florida we have the Florida Building Code, which is a very robust code that we're very proud of. That came after Andrew. We just celebrated the anniversary of Andrew. And we learned a lot, what happens in a big windstorm and storm surge and so on. A lot of that sort of what's codified into the Florida Building Code. There's still a lot of work to be done with codifying these things. So it's not up to the individual architect being sort of a superhero with the client and on his own, sort of pushing ideas, but it's actually something that is standardized and becomes more of a normal process of we understand the risk, we understand we live in a community that is a few feet above sea level. How do we deal with that? How do we reduce risk? How do we make sure that buildings don't flood, that elevator cabs don't flood, all these things that happen with water, that we avoid them, So, I think, again, every project is on its own, right? Miami Beach now has codified single family homes. We're doing a home now that is over 40,000 square feet. It's going to be LEED Gold, and we also have a healthy home consultant working with us to make sure that all the materials from the concrete mix to the quality of the lighting and reduction of EMF frequencies. There are all kinds of factors that come into a healthy home, and this client was passionate about it and really allowed us to really bring our passion and our knowledge and our collaborative skills to design a house that is just, I think, one of a kind right now.
That's so cool. That's so amazing. I think that's so incredible. You get to do some really, really fun, exciting things. So when we look at Miami, we look at the skyline of Miami. It's known for bold architecture, and the skyline is ever evolving. And as an architect with a firm, what do you think sets your firm apart in such a competitive market?
Well, that's a tough one, because I think, in a context where there are so many superheroes, right? It's always a challenge to be totally different. And that was an experience in Dubai. For example, in Dubai, every single client wanted every tower to be different. And I always sort of say Dubai is like a jungle of architecture, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, it kind of works, right? And Miami, in many ways, has exciting architecture, It has kind of boring architecture. It has a mixture of things. Every city skyline has a combination of things, right? In Miami, yeah, I think because of the sense of place, the spirit of this city is so special. We sort of think that the iconics of an architectural tower, let's say high-rise in the skyline, is unique, and the way it captures light, and it could be one of a kind. But in general, every American city has a lot of similarities, and Miami is just a matter of it's a 3D representation of the economy also, because one of the only things that we manufacture in Miami is condominium buildings. And as you know, it's all about the water view, and it's all, what kind of perspective that you get from your unit of the city skyline. And it changes. I mean, with the sunlight during the day. I mean, I've lived in high rises in downtown Miami myself, and it's always, to me, like magic what happens, with different types of suns and sunsets, sunrises, storms. You see the storms form from a high-rise perspective in the city skyline. So it's very exciting to live in urban Miami. That's why I think urban Miami has been thriving, and it continues to be developed with more density. I mean, it's sort of right now under capacity, if you could believe it, that we could put more density in the city. The city is full of capacity to continue to build and urbanize, allowing people to really move more efficiently, because we know we also have a traffic issue, but the traffic issue has a lot to do with the inadequate transit system that we have. And I know that at the county level, county leadership is working hard, to bring better solutions, for transit, to allow us to move more efficient throughout the city. We're way behind, I think, compared to Boston, New York, other cities that have more robust and more complete, transit systems. So I think that's something that densification of cities helps, to allow people to move, without having to get into an individual car. But so I probably answered beyond your question, but
well, it's great, because listening to you, your passion for this, it comes through. I mean, I cannot imagine you not doing what you're currently doing right now, not being an architect, not being so involved in resiliency and sustainability efforts, not really caring about the future of our city and our world. But I have to ask, if you weren't an architect, what other career do you think you would have pursued?
That's easy,
That's easy. Okay.
From the beginning, I loved aviation, right?
Okay.
I'm the flying architect on Instagram, Miami Flying Architect. I fly over the city in this light sports aircraft on floats that is all water-based. I take off from water, I land on water. And when you see the city from the sky like that, it gives you a different dimension, a different feel. But early on, I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer. I wanted to design aircrafts. I wanted to sort of craft and mold aircrafts. I soon learned that there was too much physics and chemistry involved in aerodynamics and in designing aircrafts, and architecture was a little bit more of a different science that attracted me as well. So I shifted from aeronautical engineering into architecture right away, and the rest is history. But I still have a passion for aviation, and it's just, for any architect, to see the city from above is always special. Yeah. But when you're in control of this sort of magic carpet that I fly, and you get to go around these beautiful communities up from above, it really gives you a different dimension. So aviation has informed, the way that I practice and the way that I live, because it really is exciting for me to be, flying simple aircrafts, connected to the spirit and the nature of the place, the water, the communities, the islands, the Florida Keys. It's just a magical place as well. So I think it started with aviation, and I transitioned right away into architecture.
Right. But even in the aviation part, I think there was a good design component there, being an aeronautical engineer and designing aircraft. I think there's always been a design undertone.
So I think my passion for details kind of comes from that, because in aviation, you have to think through every little detail, and the mechanics behind the details, the chemistry, the weight, the materiality, and all these things. And in our work, I think one of the things that distinguishes us, I think, is the detailing, is the sort of follow through to the details. And when projects really allow us to endeavor into the details, it's just for us playtime, it's serious time, and we always enjoy being able to take a concept all the way through the detailing, the construction, and make sure that it's buildable and within budget, and everybody's happy.
Absolutely. Well, I can talk to you now for hours about this because I think we have sat down for, just a quick coffee. And then I'm like, Ronaldo, I have so many questions about architecture. Tell me about all of these things. So I can do that right now, but we can't because we're getting ready to wrap up. So my last question to you is, looking back on sort of your career, what advice would you give your younger self on building an internationally recognized firm?
Have a better banker behind you. Just kidding. So look, I mean, it's an architecture practice is an act of love and care and dedication and years and years, because it takes you about 7 to 8 years to get all the degrees and all the expertise to feel like you're going to start a career. But it's always, sustaining the practice, because you have to balance, your design skills, your management skills with your business skills, and be able to attract the work and the clientele that is going to allow you to thrive. We're nothing without our sponsors, which are our clients. And, in school, you never take business courses as an architect. You tend to just take architecture and history and art classes and things like that. But I think, learning a bit more in school, in that environment, about how you run a business, how you grow a business, and these are things that are important and key to thriving, in a very competitive world. I've learned that, through my own initiatives and kind of bringing business consultants to kind of look at the way we do what we do and make sure that we're doing it within the standards of the industry. And beyond that, we're always trying to be cutting edge. But yeah, I think that it's not just about creating something exciting and beautiful. It's also how you run the practice so you can stay in business and you could thrive, because it's easy to, I always sort of say, the easiest part of the projects really is the design process and creating something. The most challenging thing always is sort of the business aspect of things, and sometimes the humanity of clients, contractors, and everybody that gets involved in collaborating with us in our projects.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. It's something that I don't think a lot of people think of too much. The business side of the architectural firm. Like you have the design side of it.
Have
But
to
there's
be
also
well
the business
balanced.
side.
You know what I mean?
Balance is key. Balance is very much key, and I think that's a great way to sort of end this segment with you. So thank you so much, Reinaldo, for joining me, and thank you guys for tuning in and listening and watching. This has been another episode of Business Beyond the Beach in partnership with our friends here at Miami Community Newspapers, and of course with coffee generously provided by Maman. They have locations all across Miami-Dade County, but our favorite is their Sunset Harbor location in South Beach. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. You guys stay tuned for another episode next week.